Hear the words that he says. This is Matthew chapter 7, verse 13. And he says this. It says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and many enter through it." Up until this point, Yeshua has spent several chapters explaining the way of the kingdom of God and what that looks like and when it actualizes through our actions. And he does this in contrast with the way of the world, the way of the flesh, and sometimes the way of the religious. And when we look at the gate that we're supposed to follow, it's not just about picking a gate. It's about deciding where your loyalties really lie. It's deciding who you're going to serve. It's deciding what you're going to commit your lives to. And it was a familiar image, of course, in Yeshua's time, because believe it or not, they had gates in the city during the times of Yeshua. Duh. Some big gates, some small. But gates in the ancient world symbolized something larger than simply a door. They symbolized power. They symbolized security, even community identity. Where do the elders gather in the town for judgments or for discussion? At the gate. It's prominent. Cities had massive gates. They had broad roads going through them. And they were built especially for empires like Rome to showcase dominance and strength. These gates could be a part of a city, or they could be a standalone icon, a trophy, if you will. In the ancient world, it was common whenever you conquer another land or expand your empire or want to celebrate a victory. It's custom to create a trophy to remind everybody all the great things you did, right? If you have a big battle, we want to have a trophy that everyone can look on and remember the battle that took place and how our empire rose above. Lots of examples, even in the Bible, they did it. The stones of remembrance in Joshua 4, to remember the Exodus from Egypt, it was a trophy of victory for God. The victory of the Red Sea, a permanent reminder that God has the strength to free us from the shackles. We have King Saul. He built a memorial for himself at Mount Carmel after defeating the Amalekites, right? How about the 12 stones of Elijah? That was his victory trophy after the whole incident with the prophets of Baal. So it's common practice. We like to show off. We like to remind ourselves of the things that we've done or the victories that we've seen in our lives. In ancient Persia, Greece, Rome, even France did it as well. They enjoyed building massive archways, massive gateways that they could show off. And these gateways were built in an extravagant way so that it would detail the victory that occurred. You would walk through a gateway and there would be reliefs or carvings, if you will, illustrating the great battle, the great achievement of the emperor. On one side, you might have the winning army that was going into battle, and they would be, all suited up. And then on the other side, as you're walking in, you would have the losers. You would have the guys that were defeated. And all around this huge arch that you could walk around or walk through, you would see the details, even giving honor to the gods they believed helped them win the battle, or making statements of victory. It's pretty neat. There's several. One of them in Rome that is significant for us reading about Yeshua here is the Arch of Titus in Rome. It, for instance, commemorated the Roman victory over Jerusalem in 70 CE. That was the first Jewish war. So you had Jewish rebels that rose up. They got tired of empire pushing them around. These were the type of people that wanted to see Yeshua pick up a sword. They wanted a military leader to come up. They wanted someone that was going to say, enough is enough. Let's use our Second Amendment rights here in the Roman Empire, and let's kill tyranny. And during the middle of the century, someone did that. There was a huge uprising against Rome, and Rome put the hammer down. They came in, they slaughtered everyone, they sacked Jerusalem, and they tore down the temple in 70 AD, destroyed it all. And it happened again 60 years later. But Titus was the one that sacked Jerusalem and burned the temple down. And so he created an arch for himself. We also have Constantine. Everyone knows about the Emperor Constantine. He also has an arch that he put up to celebrate his victory at the Milvian Bridge. But I wanted to kind of jump into some history because you guys know I enjoy history. And so I want to talk about these archways so we can get a fuller context of maybe what Yeshua is inferring, or at least one angle of it. And so I think I have some pictures here. So do we have a first picture? Hey, there I am. This was in Rome, and this is at the Arch of Titus. And it's massive. I think go to the next slide here. massive. We have this huge thing that was constructed, and this thing was constructed to celebrate destroying Jerusalem. That's what destroying the temple, and as the Romans would call it, they would call it a victory over the terrorists that were fighting against their democracy, if you will, and they snuffed them out. I think we have, let's go to the next picture right here. So at the top of it, you see there's a phrase here that's written declaring Titus, the son of God, the Senate and the people of Rome, to the divine Titus Vespasian Augustus, the son of the divine Vespasian. So he was the son of an emperor, and whenever you die as an emperor in Rome, Caesar, you are deified, you're a god, and so now Titus is the son of God. He has all the power over the empire. It was a phrase, it's a Roman phrase. Let's see, so remember how we spoke just a few minutes ago, when you walk through an archway that's for conquest or victory, celebrates winning a battle, on one side you'll have your military victory, and all the guys and they're looking good, and the other side you have the losers, or at least the downfall. And so if you go to the next slide, you'll see the loser side of the archway as they carry away the menorah and the temple treasures. They carried away the trumpets from the temple and the table of showbread. And this is their trophy. This is their trophy. All the soldiers, the Roman soldiers, are carrying them away, and along with the newly enslaved Jews that would come to Rome and build some mighty structures for them. Let's see, let's go to the next slide. I think we have the winner side. There they are. The processional, the Roman processional. And the soldiers are depicted in high relief. They're meant to stick out. It's meant to be, wow, very pompous, power, authority emanating from this thing. This is what happens when you come against the power of Rome. We knock you out. We knock you out. We will make sure that the peace of Rome remains uninterrupted. Symbolism of victory. I think do we have another picture here? Yeah, so when you're standing at the archway, typically they're positioned in a way that's propaganda. So they're positioned and they're put in places specifically to identify what the victory was. So here, when you look through the archway and you walk through it, you're walking to the Colosseum. Why are you walking to the Colosseum? Because the Colosseum was built by the Jewish slaves from the revolt and with the money that was looted from Jerusalem. So if you ever go to Rome and visit the Colosseum, you're standing in the prize that was built off the destruction of Jerusalem. It's a very kind of cool but really eerie place to be. Like this is movie Gladiator. Like, this is so cool, but at the same time, this is real. This is real, very real. And the statement is, as you can see, you don't revolt against Rome, or we'll turn your entire culture and we'll reframe your history to end up in the middle of the arena. How about this one? This one's big. So this one's also outside the Colosseum, but it's in between, strategically, the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. And it was built a little bit later, a few centuries later, after the Arch of Titus. And this is the Arch of Constantine, Emperor Constantine. It's a big one, especially in Christian history. Arch of Constantine was built to commemorate Constantine's victory over his rival, Maxentius, in the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312 AD. The victory was a turning point for Constantine. And remember, Constantine was the ruler that went on to make Rome, the whole Roman Empire, into a Christian nation. Pretty significant thing in history. It was built on pagan religion. That's what they celebrated. And then all of a sudden, this emperor comes along and he says he wants to convert. His wife wanted to convert. He enjoyed the religion, I guess he converted. And then he made it, hey, we are now a Christian empire. It's like an oxymoron, but that's what he's known for doing. That's what he's known for doing. Yeah. This archway stands between the Colosseum and Palatine Hill. The tower is about 70 feet tall, very impressive, and it has 3 archways in it. So you could walk through one and then walk through the other and walk through the other. I mean, it doesn't go anywhere. It's the trophy. It's covered in reliefs and sculptures celebrating military power, divine favor, and imperial greatness. I think we have one up-close picture. Here, what's the next slide? There we go. So we have the military processional here. See, what's unique about this specific battle is this is the battle that allowed Constantine to truly step into the lead emperor of the empire. It united all of the western of the Roman Empire, and it was a big deal. But what's so interesting is the legend that surrounds the battle. Because Christian historians, such as Eusebius and even Lactantius, they write, and even another pagan author, they write that Constantine, before the battle, he had a vision. There's some sources that say it was just a dream, pagan sources. Regardless, he had some type of a vision where not the Roman gods, but the Bible God, Jesus, appeared to him and said, hey, I'm going to give you victory over this battle, and then everyone will know that I'm with you, essentially. And the legend goes that Constantine looked up and he saw the Christian symbols, early Christian symbols called the Chi-Rho. It's the first two Greek letters of the word Christos. It looks like a P with an X over it. And so, according to the limited sources, Constantine put this symbol on his shields and possibly on his weapons, the symbol of Jesus Christ, Lord of Savior, Prince of Peace, to march into battle. And when he was victorious, well, the message was clear. God allowed Constantine to win this battle. Constantine now has God's favor. He is the army of God on earth. He is the emperor of the kingdom. Fascinating, right? I mean, it's a pretty big deal. Had a vision, goes out, there you go. And when we look at the arch, here's the twist. When we look at the arch that was developed to celebrate the battle, we see no mention of this anywhere in the archway. We see no Chi-Rho symbolism. We see no Christian symbolism. Instead, it's covered in pagan deities. It's covered in the power being drawn from the Senate. Let's go to the next slide here. There's a depiction of the goddess Victoria on there, the sun god, Sol Invictus. Here we have the moon goddess, Luna, being depicted. Oh, sorry, no, this is the Senate. So the arch is giving ode to Congress, basically. This is what took place to achieve this victory. The men of Rome, the leaders of Rome. What's the next slide? There we go. Luna, the moon goddess. Here we have another slide, a roundel of the emperor offering sacrifice to the god Apollo. Do we have a next slide here? Or did we put that in there? Yeah. Depicting who the power of Rome actually comes from. Now, if this vision or dream happened, which Christian legend states it does, why isn't it on the archway? And here's my take. And it's a debatable take, but it's an interesting conversation to have. Because after this battle, it marked a pivotal turning point in the society of Rome, especially with Constantine. And for about 3 centuries now, you've had this group of misfit rebels that are dedicated to subverting the greatness of Rome. They're dedicated to subverting the ways of Rome. They're rebels. They refuse to call Caesar Kyrios, Lord, Master, Ruler, the one I serve. We will never do that because we serve someone named Yeshua, named Jesus. These were Christians. Early Christians were anti-empire. There were soldiers on duty at posts who cried out in the name of Jesus and gave their life to Christ and said, you know what, I'm not going to kill anymore because I'm a life giver now. And they walked away from they abandoned their posts. And this was happening more than once. It was a big issue. This is what led to the persecution of Christians in Rome. It wasn't that they believed in a God. No, Rome didn't care about that. They wanted allegiance. They wanted you to back them no matter what they did. Christians, no. And what do? Well, like the Jews who had the uprising, I mean, they had the same, we're not going to bow to Rome. We're going to come against you. Rome understood how to handle that. How do they handle this? How are you going to handle people that rise up to come and violently rise up against Rome? Squash them. We know how to do this. Rome's very good at it. What do you do with a subversive group of zealots who are their hope is so in tune with this Jesus that not only will they not do as you say, but they will not fight you violently. And then you look like the bad guy when you go and crush them, right? How can you convince them to join your empire? How can you convince them from spreading their propaganda, as you would see it, and recruiting more people that will not be in line with the empire? It's a big problem. As if there was a vision, like Eusebius and others say there was, who earnestly believed there was with Constantine. I would say it's nothing more than imperial propaganda. Because at this point, moving forward, it didn't take but decades. Decades. Until Christianity in Rome at that time began to transform from a persecuted minority into the favored religion of the entire Roman Empire. It was through something like this that convinced anti-imperial and rebellious Christians to absorb into the empire, shifting the entire movement from a radical fringe group to a pillar of imperialism. It wasn't 20 years later, where he declared Christianity as the religion of the Roman Empire. And just like that, the anti-empire Christians that were subverting the worldly systems of Rome were absorbed, silenced. I mean, your God is on our side now, so you should probably join us. And somehow it worked. The empire of Christianity was born. The army of God were not prayer warriors in their closets and homes. They were Roman soldiers now, carrying spears and swords. Just like that. 3 centuries of standing against Caesar and the empire, and now they're patriots. And all the leader had to do was say they were a Christian. That's all it took. That's all it took for a generation of early Christians to walk through that gate, the broad gate. Now, obviously, Yeshua was not directly speaking about Roman victory arches, but the message is the same. There is a gate that the world designed for people to walk through. The gate that says, this is the way, this is how it's always been done. This is how you become successful. Everybody knows that. This is how you get blessed. This is how you're victorious. The world tells us what gate to walk through when we want to win. Yeshua subverts that entire image. He flips it on its head. The broad road, he warns, leads to apolia, ruin, waste, a life cut short from its God-given purpose. It's the path of least resistance. It's wide enough for crowds to walk through shoulder to shoulder, but it ends in spiritual or relational destruction. The narrow gate, Yeshua says, by contrast, is small. It's constricted. It's intentional. You feel pressure when you get in it. It has no beautification. It was not made for the masses. It has no record of power and military conquest adorned on it. If it's narrow, it's really only made for one person at a time. Why waste time into making it something grand? And that's the point of what Yeshua is saying. It's a path that challenges the world. And at that time, the world can be synonymous with empire, the way the world rules and tries to influence you, the way of consuming for yourself, appeasing the flesh and ignoring what God's call and mission is for your life. The narrow gate rejects domination. It leads to life, true abundant life, in a kingdom that is not of this world. And a lot of times when we speak about walking through the narrow gate and the wide gate, again, remember, talk about negotiating. When we see something that's hard in the Bible, sometimes we'll limit its application just so that we can continue living the way that we want, right? Because change is hard, especially a change that doesn't look like anything else the world is doing. And so a lot of times when we come to this portion of Scripture, we limit what it actually means. It means we don't cuss. Yeah, don't use that language. It's not good. It means don't listen to that secular music that may talk about bad things. It means not watching those TVs or movies. It might have some things in it. It means, Daniel, stop looking at porn. Yes. That's not where it stops, though. The gate that you walk through is a decision that you're going to make. It is a heart commitment for what you're going to stand for and against. It's about allegiance, full allegiance, not halfway in. And a lot of times we can do all of the things. We can watch our language. We can be more selective over what media we consume. We can address addictions, whether it be drugs or alcohol or porn, so that we can justify not going through the gate completely. Sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes it's more than that. The broad road is about embracing the empire's values: hatred, division, contempt, caustic treatment of others, especially if they deserve it. The narrow gate is about rejecting those values and choosing Yeshua's way. Loving enemies. I will give up bad words in a minute if I don't have to do that. Forgiving authentically and deeply. I'll give up TV too. Don't make me do it. And it means living humbly in a world obsessed with power and conquest, dominating other people, seeing that someone else got something so that now that you have envy, that's not fair. Justice breaks out when you didn't lose anything. Someone got a blessing, but now I'm envious. Now I'm in the fertilizer of sin right now. All because I justified it. I didn't get what I wanted. Even though I didn't want anything, someone else just got something more, a blessing. The Bible is an anti-empire book. From Egypt to Babylon to Rome, it consistently challenges systems of oppression, greed, and violence. And it's Yeshua's narrow gate that is the rejection of that broad road, a refusal to conform to its ways of dehumanizing others and fostering division. It's a choice to live as citizens of a different type of kingdom, one that's defined by righteousness, justice, and love. Now, where we get in trouble is we think that if a path is religious, it's not broad. The broader path can look religious as well. Matthew 23, it's a whole chapter committed to Yeshua calling that out. Because remember, Yeshua wasn't talking about the secular world here. He was speaking to religious people, those who might look religious on the outside but still harbor things that are hard to get rid of, like pride, ego, bitterness, judgment within. It is possible to walk through a broad gate holding a Bible. The Roman Empire did it. Singing worship songs, attending church every week. That's exactly what Israel was accused of in Isaiah. First chapter, chapter 1, but Jeremiah as well, Ezekiel. If our faith becomes a tool for self-righteousness, division, or condemnation, we've missed the narrow gate. We've missed it. And I bring that up in today's climate because I think it's important to be reminded of. There's a lot going on in the world, guys. There's some spectacular stuff going on in the world. Pretty amazing stuff. I don't know if all of it's good or bad. I'm hanging on just like everyone else because this is unprecedented, just how active the world is right now in conflict. And whenever there's conflict, there's a need to get support. And that's where marketing, propaganda, whatever comes into play, to get your support for my side of this conflict, wherever it is and whatever. And the easiest way to do that is to tell people who their enemies are and make them scared of them. And it's something we fall for a lot. And we do it easily. Broad gate versus narrow gate. Patience, grace, mercy, wisdom. Yeshua's imagery here is not something new that he just pulled out of thin air. It's rooted in the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, where life is depicted as a journey with choices at critical junctions, at places of doors. Life is a journey that has lots of choices to make, to decide. Which route are you going to go? Which door do you take? Which road? Which path? This theme starts at the very beginning in the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3:24. You have a place that is filled with life, a place that is filled with God's presence that he frequents casually. And then there is a doorway that leads out to a land that's cursed, to a land of death. And the story shows us Adam and Eve, which ones they chose. They reached for the fruit. Two angels, or multiple angels with a flaming sword guarding the way so that the two cannot touch. The door, the way of life. We see it happen again in Genesis 4. God warns Cain. He says, Cain, sin is crouching at the opening. There's an opening, there is a threshold where you need to choose righteousness or ruin. You can do this. You can overcome this. You can show your allegiance, Cain. Come on. If you do good, won't you? It's crouching at the door. It's waiting for you to step over so it can get you. Noah's Ark. The door of the ark is the refuge of life. There is life on this side of the door, but on the other side, destruction, chaos. Story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember when they're in the house in Sodom? And there's two angels guarding the door. And as long as they're inside the door, they have life. But there's death and destruction outside the door because all the men of the city want to shame and dominate and conquest people inside, right? They open the door, they reach out, try to grab them, pulls them back in. No, here, take my daughters. What? 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 Hold on. Yeah, it's a picture of Eden. Reoccurring picture of Eden. Life on one path, one side of the gate, death on the other. See the pattern again in Passover. This is the story. One side of the door. There is a door. Which side will you stand on? Which route will you take? Tabernacle, same type of motif. You get the idea. You get the idea. The doors are not just physical barriers, but they're spiritual thresholds for allegiance, moments of decision that reveal where our loyalty stands. Will we remain outside? Be overtaken by the chaos of the world? Or will we enter into God's protection, the place of life, stepping through that narrow gate, if you will? God provides moments of decision and doors and gates, but we have to be the ones to decide. Are we going to choose rebellion or loyalty? Psalm 1 says the same thing. I think we have it up. Psalm 1 in chapter 1. What's it say? It says, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night." The wisdom of God to navigate this life through the commandments and the precepts. Walking with God, not having time to be distracted. There's two paths. There's two paths. Deuteronomy in the Torah, Deuteronomy 30, verse 19, it sums it up. It says, "This day I call heaven and the earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life so that you and your children may live." Yeshua doesn't just draw on the rich tradition of the Old Testament. He's intensifying it. The narrow gate is much more than just outward religious performance, especially if you're still harboring and working on the things that Yeshua says we need to overcome in the Sermon on the Mount. Those are the things on the inside. Those are the things of the heart. Those are the characteristics and the things that you enjoy keeping in your life. Whether that's bitterness, contempt, unforgiveness, hatred, judgment, gossip, envy, feeling like we always need to conquer someone else to feel better about ourselves, or life, love, mercy, humility that aligns with the ways of God. It's a choice. In the 1940s, in Germany, tumultuous time. I want to use an example that I actually used a year ago, and I didn't realize it before I came up here. It was about a young woman named Sophie Scholl. And she lived in, at the time, Nazi-occupied Germany. And the one thing that was so amazing about what took place with the rise of Hitler and Nazism isn't how it manifested in the 40s, but how it got started in the 30s. Because there was something about it that got him like a 90-something% approval rating. Everybody joined together and followed down the path, and there was no one to stand up and say, wait a second. And if they were, well, they used the tactics of Rome. Many people in Germany, including Christians, grabbed their Bibles and walked through the broad road, all while turning a blind eye to injustice. But at just 21 years old, this girl named Sophie, she chose to resist. Bold. Because that's a difficult thing to do. If you live in a nation that has an uprising of nationalism, it's exciting. Things are coming together. You just go with the flow. We're all susceptible to that. With enough peer pressure, it's hard to remain focused. But not for this 21-year-old. With her brother Hans and a resistance group called the White Rose Resistance Group, she distributed pamphlets at school and at college exposing the Nazis' atrocities, murders, deportations, Their dehumanization of Jews had already begun. It was atrocious. These pamphlets called for justice, truth, courage, urging fellow Germans to resist. In a world where silence was safe, not just in Germany, mind you, at that time, we were big fans of Germany before the war. Where silence is safe, she spoke up. In a culture of hatred, she chose love. And in a time of conformity, she stood for God's kingdom. But her choice was costly. In February of 1943, she was arrested, interrogated, and she was promptly executed at 21 years old. Not for running up and trying to stab a Nazi soldier, not for trying to do an assassination attempt on someone. She was distributing pamphlets that were going against what the empire was choosing to do. And that baffles my mind. Baffles my mind. The ultimate cost to live for what's right. And that's our calling, not just in a political sense, if you will, but in any situation where we see injustice is dominating. I pray I would have the courage. I pray I would have the courage. And it challenges us, her story challenges us, because it makes me feel like, what broad roads tempt us today? Which ones are they? And what would it look like to choose the narrow road today, even if it's costly? And of course, that's such a nuanced question because we all have different lives, different exposures, different relationships, different struggles. But today, I think that we face the same world that the apostles faced and all the Christians for the past 200 years faced. It's a world of empire, of control, trying to take from others to gain. Today, we face our own broad gates, as just as seductive as those that all those who came before us faced. Our culture pressures us to conform to empire's values, not always through blatant evil, but through subtle temptations to prioritize comfort, power, or division over God's kingdom. Many Christians, without realizing it, walk the broad road, believing that we're righteous because, of course, we follow the rules, while their hearts are still shaped by fear and anger and contempt. The broad road appears before us when we elevate political or national identity above our allegiance to Yeshua. It becomes clear. Treating those who disagree as enemies rather than neighbors that need love. Broad road manifests itself. When we respond to cultural or political differences with caustic words, judgment, or bitterness, again, dehumanizing a group of people that someone else told us was against us, instead of engaging them with humility. The broad road manifests itself when we chase personal success, when we chase wealth, when we chase comfort, hoarding resources while ignoring generosity, justice, and the communities around us flourishing. The broad road manifests itself when we give in to fear-driven narratives, when we choose to spread division or even misinformation instead of standing for truth and reconciliation. The broad road is paved with self-justification. It's easy, it's popular, and the most seductive thing about it is it's affirming when we take it. Social media amplifies it. Feeding outrage, tribalism, urges us to manifest, curate hatred towards others, outrage. Yeshua warns us. He says, guys, if there is a way of acting towards other people that the entire world has standardized as appropriate, you may want to at least question it. At least. If Yeshua's kingdom is an inversion of the one we live in now. Question. Is this the bandwagon of Yeshua's kingdom or the world? It's tough. Yeshua warns that one of those roads leads to apolia, ruin. And it's here, and it's now. And we can see the effects of it in broken relationships, in divided communities, and in hardened hearts. We see it clearly. Yeshua's warning was urgent for his audience 2,000 years ago. They faced a collision course with Rome that was going to take place a few decades later. Many chose the broad road of violent rebellion. The two men on the way back home from the road to Emmaus, he died, he didn't get the sword, he didn't kill everybody, so I guess he wasn't the Messiah, right? It's a worldly expectation. Today we face similar choices, not only with swords, but with words, with attitudes and actions. And we need to consider the things that we do or say or even feel unchecked. They either build God's kingdom or they tear it down. And so what does it mean to choose the narrow gate today? It's not abstract theology, it's a lived reality woven into our daily choices, into our intentions of every day that we wake up and set and plot with prayer. Yeshua calls us to embody his kingdom by rejecting the world's values, empire's values, and embracing his way of love, humility, and justice. The Greek word for narrow is tethlimene. Pronounce that right? It implies constriction, narrow, pressure. It's not comfortable. It's not easy. Sometimes you get pressed on. And that's why it's hard. So here are some practical ways we can walk it out. I believe I have a slide. Number one of the hardest things we can ever learn to do. Wrong slide. I don't have this one up there, but that's okay. Love your enemies. Love your enemies. Love your enemies. This isn't just a feeling, it's an action. It is an action. Pray for those who oppose you. How many of us do that? You guys want a litmus test for what road you might be about to step on? When you get triggered, I know everybody has triggers. I have lots of them. All right, we're in good company. Usually I get triggers about people, and usually I don't know the people that I'm triggered by. So then I have to make up something about them to justify being triggered. You ever do that, right? Someone pulls out in front of you, and you have the whole life narrative of who they are and what type of person they are, which enables you to feel comfortable saying the things that you are about to say about them, right? You've justified it. When somebody triggers you, makes you mad, is an enemy, are you willing to pray for him right then and there? Oh, this could be some terrorist group. This could be some protester. This could be some zealous patriot that's cussing, saying stuff. This could be whatever. This could be our current president. This could be our prior president. This could be the future president. If you get angry, rage, do you have enough humility to at least ask yourself, can you pray for them right now? Would you dare pray that God's blessings would pour over them and that they would have a renewed life, even closer to God than you? Because that's what we're called to be able to do. I'll take just giving up cussing. Choosing forgiveness. When anger or retaliation feels justified, can you release bitterness? Can you offer mercy? Can you at least entertain that God's justice is greater than my personal vengeance? Practice radical generosity. Can you come to a place where this was hard for us, Americans, reject consumerism's lie that happiness comes from more stuff? Can you come to a place where you can share your time and your money and your energy and prioritize community over personal gain? Embrace humility. Lay down the need to be right all the time, to control other people and their opinions all the time, or to be recognized for the stuff you've done all the time. Can you let things like that go? While also standing for justice, speaking for those who can't speak for themselves, who the system overlooks, or who just isn't popular enough to get justice. This is a path that is constricting. It's like passing through a fiery sword going into Eden. I mean, this is tough stuff. And when you come to a place, when you're able to shed your pride and fear and self-interest, I bet it gets lonely. Because that's the narrow path. There's not a lot of people on that path. Not a lot. These are the things that we can do to live out our allegiance today. We engage other people with humility and empathy no matter who they are. We reject consumerism and the lie that what God has given to us is not enough. We seek to reconcile relationships and build stronger ones of community. We speak truth in love. And we cultivate an environment of peacemaking.